I didn't notice we weren't invited. Not at first. Not when I helped Sori dust powdered sugar onto the cupcakes that morning. Not when she twirled in front of the mirror in her sparkly purple dress with the snagged hem and declared it was her official party outfit. Not even when we pulled into the parking lot and saw the rainbow balloon arch sagging in the wind, a unicorn bounce house deflating slowly in the background like a metaphor no one asked for. If anything, I felt relief. I wasn't in charge this year. No decorations, no vendor drama, no frantic calls asking where the juice boxes were. Just me and my daughter arriving like normal guests at my cousin Mila's annual Kidpalooza birthday bash. I even brought cupcakes. Suri's Galaxy Swirls. She labeled them herself in glitter marker. But when we reached the check-in table, because yes, there was a check-in table this year, the vibe shifted. A teenager I half recognized from family barbecues, Dylan, I think stood holding a clipboard like a bouncer at a VIP lounge. Names he asked without looking up. I smiled. Nia and Suri, we brought cupcakes. His eyes scanned the list, then stopped. You're not on here. I laughed. Oh, probably just a mix-up. I'm Nia, my daughter's Suri. We're Mila's cousins. Been coming every year. He hesitated. I was told it's invite only this time. Only people on the list. I glanced behind him. Streamers flapped. Kids shrieked from inside the foam castle. It's okay. Can you double-check last name Reyes? He flipped a page. Paused. Nope, sorry. And then I saw her. My sister Danica. She was walking over with that tight-lipped smile she wore like armor. Event t-shirt tucked in clipboard of her own. She reached the table, gave Dylan a pat on the back like she was proud of him for guarding the gates of Narnia, and turned to me. Nia, she said. I gestured to the tray. We made cupcakes. You weren't invited. I waited for the punchline. Nothing came. I assumed we were just missed, I said carefully. We've always been part of this. Danica crossed her arms. You told us you weren't helping this year. I said I couldn't plan it, I corrected. That's not the same as not coming. Well, I thought you understood. Understood what? That we were erased. Before I could speak, Suri tugged on my hand. Mama, can we go in? Please, Mad said, there's face paint. Danica knelt beside her smile, still fixed. Sorry, sweetheart. Not today. It's not your fault. It's your mom's. That one hit like a slap. I reached down, took the cupcake tray from Suri, and turned us around. We walked back to the car in silence, music swelling behind us like it was mocking us. A bubble popped against my arm. Suri said nothing until we were halfway home. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, you ruined it. I didn't answer. My fingers were white-knuckled around the steering wheel. My brain was flipping through every possible explanation. A mistake, a miscommunication. But Danica's face had said otherwise. She knew, she meant it. We got home. Suri went to her room. I sat at the kitchen table holding the cupcakes. The glitter label she made was smudged now. That's when I checked my phone, not even intentionally. I just needed distraction. And there it was. An old family group chat had lit up. Some cousin had reused it for party logistics. They'd forgotten to remove me. At the top, a photo from across the lawn. Me and Suri at the gate holding our tray. Danica standing between us and the party like a prison guard. Underneath a comment, I can't believe she still showed up. The air left the room. I didn't even know what I was being blamed for yet. But I was about to find out, and once I did, let's just say my sister never saw it coming. The cupcakes sat on the counter all afternoon untouched. Suri didn't come out of her room. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there, phone in hand, refreshing that group chat thread like some part of me expected it to disappear. But it didn't. Another message pinged. She was supposed to run the party, wasn't she? A reply followed. Danica said she just vanished. Classic Nia. And that was when the pieces started falling into place. I hadn't vanished. I'd sent a message, a month earlier. I'd been recovering from a sprained ankle, still going to work, trying to juggle Suri's school events while Danica was blowing up my inbox with balloon rental quotes and catering spreadsheets. I'd told her I couldn't do it this year. Said it nicely, said it twice. But apparently that got rewritten into Nia bailed. Or worse, into something I hadn't even considered yet. The next morning, I made coffee and stared at it like it owed me answers. I couldn't let it go. Not because I wanted revenge, not yet, but because I needed to know. So I scrolled through the school contact list, found a name that stuck out: Carla Edwards. One of the moms who always brought handmade piñatas to parties, whose daughter played with Story sometimes. I didn't hesitate. I texted her. "Hi, Carla. Sorry to bother you. Can I ask you something kind of awkward?" She replied immediately. "Of course. Everything okay? Were you at Mila's party yesterday?" "Yeah, it was wild. So many kids. I heard there were some comments about me. I need to know what people are saying. Please." There was a long pause. "Then Danica told us you'd agreed to organize it all months ago, that she gave you money for the venue and you ghosted her. She said she had to pull everything together last minute. People were upset. They thought you just didn't care anymore." My stomach dropped. "Wait, she said she gave me money?" "Yeah," Carla replied. She mentioned it casually, like she was concerned, but it sounded sketchy. "I never took money." I typed back, my fingers trembling. I told her I couldn't do it this year. I never agreed to organize anything. Carla wrote, "Honestly, I believe you. It didn't sound like you." I thanked her, then sat in silence, phone on the table, a hum building inside me like pressure in a tea kettle. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a setup. So I called Danica. She picked up on the first ring. "Hey, Nia, you doing okay?" Her voice was syrupy, the kind she used when she wanted something. "Cut the crap," I said. "You told people I took money for the party and disappeared." A pause. "Where is this coming from, Carla? She told me everything. Did you lie to everyone?" Another pause. "I didn't say you took it. I said I gave you money. People assumed things. You let them assume I stole from our family." Her tone sharpened. "You weren't clear, Nia. You dropped out last minute. What was I supposed to do? I told you I was injured. You knew I couldn't plan a 100-person party. You've always done it before," she snapped. "I didn't think you'd actually back out. So you threw me under the bus because you panicked I kept things running. I made it happen. By lying," I said. "To everyone, including your niece." There was silence then, that exhausted sigh she used when she wanted to be the victim. "You're being dramatic. You humiliated us. You made my daughter cry and convinced the whole family I'm a thief. You let us down. No, Danica. I just stopped enabling you." I hung up before she could reply. That afternoon, I opened my laptop and started pulling receipts. Literally, old emails, texts, planning docs from every previous party, my name all over them. Spreadsheets with budgets, to-do lists, screenshots of past group chats where I handled every single detail for years. I even found the message I sent this year clearly saying I couldn't do it with the timestamp to prove it. I stacked everything into a folder. Then I wrote the calmest, coldest email of my life. No emotion, no rants, just bullet points and facts. I sent it to the extended family list. 74 people. I ended it with, "I will no longer be available for event coordination. Please do not contact me for future assistance." Then I logged out. The responses started rolling in within minutes. My cousin Leo, "Wait." What I thought? My Aunt Rosa, "This changes everything. I'm sorry, Nia. A neighbor, Story's always welcome here. That was messed up." One by one, the people who'd side-eyed me the day before started quietly shifting. I didn't gloat. I didn't reply. I just read them all and exhaled. By the end of the day, Danica's silence was louder than any apology. She didn't text. She didn't call. But the group chat she'd used to plan the party, she deleted it. The next morning, I heard from my friend Maya, who works at the same event space Danica uses for her floral business side gigs. "Weird," she said. "Danica tried to book us, but we've had a sudden drop in referrals. People are asking questions." "What kind of questions about the party?" "About whether she really ran it alone." "She didn't," I said. "She just took credit." Until it went wrong. Within a week, Danica had gone from golden child to persona non grata. Subtle at first. Fewer likes on her posts, a couple canceled orders. Then came the Facebook thread, parents venting about community drama and how disappointing it is when people weaponize family. Someone even linked my email. The damage was done. Still no word from my mother. Not until week 3 when she left a voicemail. I think this has gone too far. Your sister is struggling. Maybe you should fix this. I didn't call back because I wasn't the one who broke it, and I was just getting started. I didn't respond to my mother's message. Not because I was trying to be petty, but because there was nothing left to say. Danica wasn't struggling. She was unraveling. And the mess she was sitting in, she built it. She framed me, humiliated Suri, and then got caught. That wasn't my fault. That was just gravity doing its job. I spent the next few days quietly living my life. Laundry, grocery runs, working late while Suri played in the living room. Normal things, simple things. But even in the silence, things were moving, fast. I heard from an old family friend, Mr. Torres, the accountant who used to do our taxes back when I handled Grandma's estate. He called me out of nowhere. "Hey, Nia. Just a heads up, I was reviewing something for your uncle and your name came up." My name? There were documents. Someone said you mishandled funds for last year's reunion. They were thinking of having a family discussion. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. "Let me guess," I said. "Danica again." He sighed. "Off the record." Yes, that's when it hit me. She wasn't just trying to save face. She was rewriting the entire story, painting herself as the victim in every chapter where I existed. It wasn't enough for her to exclude me. She needed to erase me completely. I hung up with Mr. Torres, walked straight to my bedroom closet, and pulled out the old plastic crate where I kept our family records. Tax returns, bank statements, receipts for every reunion I ever coordinated down to the last folding chair rental. I spent the next 2 hours scanning, organizing, labeling. When I finished, I uploaded everything to a private drive labeled just in case. Because if Danica wanted to play dirty, I was going to be prepared. That night, while Suri slept, I lay awake thinking about all the times I'd carried the weight no one else wanted. The school fundraisers, the hospital drop-offs, the late-night family feuds I helped resolve with phone calls and mediation snacks. I used to think I did it because it was the right thing. Now I knew the truth. I did it because no one else would. And because part of me believed that being useful was the same as being loved. The next morning, my mom showed up. I should have seen it coming. I heard her knock 3 short raps and a pause, like always. I didn't rush to the door. I opened it slowly, stepped outside, and shut it behind me. She was holding a Tupperware of something, probably her apology in casserole form. She looked tired, but not sorry. "Can we talk?" she asked. I didn't move. "You told me to fix it," I said. "I wasn't the one who broke it." She exhaled through her nose the way she always did when she was about to say something performative. "Danica's had a hard time lately. The cafe's been struggling. She didn't mean to hurt you. She told everyone I stole. She made my daughter feel like trash." My mother looked down at the steps as if the concrete held better excuses than she did. She panicked. She thought you'd come through like always. So she lied. She felt abandoned. I crossed my arms. I didn't abandon anyone. I said no. Once. After years of saying yes. Her eyes snapped up. "You've always been sensitive." And there it was. The phrase that had been used to discredit every hurt I ever felt. "No," I said. "I've always been patient and quiet, but not anymore." She blinked, surprised, maybe even a little impressed. "You're still family," she said. "Blood doesn't change." Maybe I replied, "But respect does." Then I opened the door, stepped back inside, and closed it behind me. After that, things moved without me lifting a finger. The rumors faded, replaced by newer scandals. Danica's florist bookings dried up. Her apology tour fell flat. Apparently, people don't like being lied to by someone who plays the martyr while throwing her own sister under a bus. Suri started getting invited to more play dates than ever before. Kids remembered. Parents noticed. Some sent messages. Others just started showing up with coffee and kindness. One night, about a month after the party, I was sitting on the porch watching the sun dip behind the neighbor's fence when my phone buzzed. A message from Rachel, our youngest sister. The quiet one, the one who always floated above the chaos. It read, "I've been thinking. You didn't deserve any of that. I should have spoken up." I stared at the message for a long moment before replying, "Thank you." She texted back, "Can I come by sometime?" And just like that, something shifted. She came the next afternoon, brought donuts, said she missed Suri. But the look in her eyes told me there was more. "I watched it all happen," she said, "and I stayed quiet because it felt easier. But I regret it now." I nodded. "I get it. Danica always takes up so much space. And Mom follows her lead. It's like there's no room for anyone else to exist." I didn't disagree. "You think she'll ever own up to it?" I asked. Rachel shrugged. "Probably not, but that's on her." We sat in silence for a while, sipping coffee. It was the most peace I'd felt in weeks. Later that night, Suri curled up beside me on the couch and asked Mom, "Are we still going to cousin parties?" I paused. "Maybe not all of them," I said. "But we'll make our own fun." She thought for a moment, then nodded. "Can I still wear glitter dresses?" I smiled. "You can wear whatever makes you feel happy." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Good, because I like being sparkly even when people are mean." And just like that, I knew we'd be okay. A week after Rachel's visit, I got an email from a parent I barely knew. The subject line was, "Thank you." Inside was a short note I heard what happened. "Just wanted to say I've been there. Families can be messy. You handled it with so much grace." That word stuck with me. Grace. I didn't feel graceful. I felt worn thin. But maybe quiet resistance looked like grace from the outside. Maybe choosing not to fight publicly, not to scream or retaliate, made people think I was composed. The truth was, I had nothing left to prove. I wasn't trying to win. I was just trying to be free. That's what it had become, freedom. Not from the drama, but from the role I'd played in it. The fixer, the default, the one who never said no. It was a strange thing realizing how invisible I'd been in plain sight. Everyone saw me, sure, but no one saw me. They saw what I did, what I carried, what I solved, but not who I was under all that responsibility. And when I put it down, they didn't recognize me. So they called me selfish, dramatic, unreliable, because it was easier than admitting they'd grown too comfortable with me disappearing behind the scenes. Danica never reached out. Not once. Which surprised me at first, but only until I remembered who she was. She didn't apologize, she rebranded. She didn't reflect, she pivoted. I heard from Maya that she started advertising her flower business under a new name, trying to distance herself from the scandal. "She's acting like none of it happened," Maya said. "But people remember. It's quiet, but her bookings are way down. Word travels." I didn't feel satisfied. Not really, just confirmed. There's a difference. Then one rainy Thursday, I got another knock at the door. Not Danica this time. My mother, again. I took a breath and opened it. She didn't come with Tupperware this time. No casserole. No soft voice pretending we were okay. She stood there in her trench coat, water dripping from her umbrella, and said, "She's moving." I didn't speak. "Danica, she's leaving the city. Says it's too toxic here. Says no one wants to work with her." I kept my face still. "She blames you," she added. That part didn't sting the way it used to. I looked at her and said, "She can blame whoever she wants." "That doesn't make it true." My mother's mouth tightened. "She says you ruined her reputation." I folded my arms. "I told the truth, that's all. You didn't have to send that email to everyone. I didn't have to get excluded from a family party either. I didn't have to watch my daughter cry in the car while you stood there and said nothing." She flinched just slightly. "You've always been so rigid," she said. "So unforgiving." I raised an eyebrow. "No, I've just always been quiet about it." She looked down, and for a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes, regret maybe, or recognition. But it passed. "She's still your sister," she said. "And I'm still your daughter," I replied. "But you didn't stand by me." There was nothing else to say. She left without another word. I watched her walk down the steps, her umbrella a dark shape against the gray sky, and for the first time, I didn't feel obligated to chase after her. I closed the door gently and leaned against it. Not angry, not bitter, just finished. That night, I told Suri we were planning our own celebration. Just us. Something sparkly and loud and completely ours. She beamed. "Can we have bubble machines? Absolutely. And glitter slime? You bet." We made a list. Snacks, games, decorations. Nothing fancy. Just fun. Real fun. The kind that didn't come with guilt or whispers or clipped smiles. The day of our little party, I watched Suri laugh with her classmates in our backyard while bubbles floated into the blue sky. Music played from a Bluetooth speaker. The cupcakes, her galaxy swirls, were a hit. One of the moms leaned over and said, "Honestly, this feels more joyful than that huge party last month. This is what kids remember." And I believed her. After everyone left, we sat on the porch steps eating leftover cupcakes. Shuri leaned her head against my shoulder and said, "Today was perfect." I nodded. Yeah, it really was. She looked up at me serious. "Did Aunt Danica get in trouble for lying?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. She didn't get in trouble, but she had to deal with what happens when people find out the truth. Shuri nodded slowly, thinking it over. "Good, because I didn't like the way she made you feel." I kissed the top of her head. "Me neither, baby." Later, when she was asleep, I sat with a cup of tea and realized something. The revenge wasn't the email. It wasn't the fallout. It wasn't even the silence from my mom or the fact that Danica was skipping town. It was this peace, my own peace, not owed, not begged for, just claimed, quietly, steadily, finally. 3 weeks after the backyard party, the house felt different. Not quieter, exactly. Suri was still her usual whirlwind of glitter and song, but lighter, like something had been cleared from the air. I didn't realize how much tension I'd been carrying until it was gone. No group texts demanding favors, no guilt-laced calls asking me to pick up the slack. Just silence. And for once, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space. Then one afternoon, I got a call from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Tessa, my cousin on my dad's side. We'd never been close, but we got along fine whenever our paths crossed. She sounded nervous. "Hey, I know this is random, but can I ask you something?" I said. "Sure. Danica said you blackmailed her, that you used private family records to destroy her business." I blinked. "What?" "She's saying you went behind her back, that you made up lies to get sympathy." My first instinct was to laugh, but it landed flat. "She's still spinning," I said quietly. "I didn't blackmail anyone, Tessa. I shared the truth. I showed receipts because I was tired of being blamed for something I didn't do." A pause. "Then I believe you." Her voice softened. "Honestly, the story she's been telling never added up." "It wasn't supposed to," I said. "It was just supposed to protect her ego." Tessa hesitated. "She's moving to Denver. She told people you pushed her out." "I didn't push," I said. I stepped aside. If the truth pushed her out, that's not on me. After we hung up, I sat with that sentence. I stepped aside. It was the first time I'd framed it that way. I hadn't lashed out. I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd just stopped holding up a house that was never mine to maintain. I'd walked away from the roles that defined me, and everyone who needed me to stay small had started scrambling to rebuild a version of events that didn't make them look bad. That was on them. Suri's birthday was coming up, and this year I did something radical. I asked for help. I texted Rachel, a few of my friends, even Suri's teacher who loved organizing crafts. "I don't want to run myself into the ground this time," I told them. "I just want to enjoy her day." And to my surprise, nobody balked. Nobody guilt-tripped me. They just said, of course. That was new, and it felt good. Really good. The party was small, but magical. Fairy lights, a homemade cake that looked like a forest had exploded on top of it. Kids running around with paper wings and flower crowns. I didn't run the whole show. I floated. I played. I laughed. I took pictures instead of fixing logistics. And when I sat with the parents at the picnic table sipping lemonade and watching Suri blow out her candles, someone said, "You look so relaxed." I smiled. "That's because I didn't try to do everything myself this time." One of the dads nodded. "We should all learn how to do that." That night, after everyone left and the yard was a confetti of ribbons and fallen petals, Suri hugged me tightly. "This was the best birthday ever," she whispered. "Even better than the one with the magician and the snow cone truck." I smiled into her hair. "You think so?" She pulled back, eyes wide. "Yeah, because you weren't busy. You were here, with me." And that was it. That was the part I'd been missing. All those years I spent running the show, organizing, planning, smoothing every edge so things wouldn't fall apart. I'd been everywhere and nowhere at once. Present but absent. Reliable but unreachable. All in the name of holding it together. But none of it mattered if I wasn't really with the people I loved. A few days later, I got one final message from Danica. Not a call, not an apology, just a cold, clipped text. "You got what you wanted. I hope you're satisfied." I stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it without replying. Because here's the truth, I didn't want her to fail. I didn't want her to leave town, lose clients, or get shunned by the same people she once used to climb. All I ever wanted was respect. A seat at the table, basic decency. I wanted to stop being the invisible scaffolding propping everyone else up while being told to be grateful for the view. What I got instead was clarity. And honestly, that was more valuable than any apology could ever be. As for my mom, we didn't talk much after that second visit. She sent a few messages, short, polite ones, updates, weather, a forwarded recipe. I replied when I felt like it. Sometimes I didn't. There was no anger in it, just boundaries. I wasn't punishing her. I was protecting myself. And if she couldn't tell the difference, that was her journey, not mine. Rachel and I stayed close, in a quiet, steady way. No grand confessions or drama, just more coffee visits. More shared smiles at Suri's dance recitals. More small moments where I felt seen without having to explain myself. That kind of relationship felt rare and healing, and I treasured it. By autumn, I'd started taking on small projects again, things I enjoyed. A charity bake sale at Suri's school. A weekend hike with friends I used to cancel on. I wasn't rebuilding the old me. I was shaping something new. Something smaller, softer, but more real. And in that space, I found a version of myself I actually liked. Not because she was needed, but because she was whole. Winter arrived like a hush softening the edges of the world. The kind of quiet that makes you notice things you usually miss, the way the trees hold on to the last few leaves, the sound of your own breath in the cold. I'd been noticing more lately. Not just the world, but myself. The way I no longer jumped at every text alert. The way I stopped bracing for obligation every time someone said my name. I wasn't waiting to be dragged into anything anymore. I was rooted, and still. One evening, Suri and I were putting up paper snowflakes in the front window when she asked Mom, "Do you think we'll go to Aunt Danica's new house one day?" I didn't answer right away. She turned to look at me, her big eyes open and curious, not sad, just wondering. I crouched beside her, adjusted one of the crooked snowflakes, and said, "Maybe someday, but only if it feels right. Only if it's safe for both of us." She nodded slowly. "Okay." Then, after a beat, "Do you think she misses us?" That question landed deeper. I thought about it honestly. About what Danica might miss, the version of me that always fixed things, who showed up without question, who carried more than her share and smiled while doing it. Maybe she missed that version. But did she miss us? Me as I am now, I wasn't sure. Maybe I said, but even if she doesn't, we're still okay. Later that night, while Sori slept, I pulled out an old photo album, the kind with the sticky pages and plastic overlays. I flipped through years of birthdays and holidays and random Tuesday mornings. There I was, holding the cake, cleaning the mess, organizing the group photo, always just off-center. Helpful, smiling, not once in the front, not once the focus. And something inside me softened. Not into sadness, but into truth. I hadn't been forgotten. I had been useful. And now I didn't need to be either. I just needed to be. A few weeks before the new year, I got a message from my dad. Just a line, hope you and Sori are doing well. Let me know if you want to grab lunch. No guilt, no expectations, just an open door. I stared at it for a while before responding. We're doing great. Lunch sounds nice. We met at a small cafe near the park. He looked older than I remembered, less sharp around the edges. We talked about safe things, schoolwork, the cold. But then he looked at me and said, I don't know everything that happened with your sister, but I do know I should have paid more attention. You were always the one holding things together. I guess we let that become the default. I didn't expect that. I just nodded, letting the words settle. Thanks, I said. He looked down at his coffee. You seem lighter, happier even. I am, I said. Took me a while to get here. He gave a small, sheepish smile. Took me even longer to notice. New Year's came quietly. Just me and Suri, some sparklers in the backyard, music playing from the living room. We wrote down things we wanted to leave behind and things we wanted to carry forward. I wrote guilt on one slip of paper, doing it all on another. Shuri added math homework and mosquitoes. We burned the papers in a small tin bowl and watched the smoke curl into the night sky. What do we keep? I asked her. She thought for a long time, then said kindness and sparkles. It wasn't profound, but it was honest and enough. By spring, I'd learned how to say no without an apology attached to it. I stopped volunteering for every event. I only showed up when I wanted to, and that wasn't selfish. It was sacred. People noticed. Some adjusted, others disappeared. The ones who stayed, they were real. They didn't expect me to carry them. They walked beside me, including Rachel, who had slowly become the kind of sister I didn't know I needed. One day she showed up with a potted lavender plant and said, "For your window, because it reminds me of you, soft but strong. Grows even in the toughest places." I kept it by the sink. It thrived. Summer brought lightness in more ways than one. We traveled. Just Suri and me. Small weekend trips to nearby lakes and sleepy towns where no one knew our names. We laughed more, slept better. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. There were no emergencies, just moments, and we lived in them fully. Sometimes I'd hear updates through the grapevine. Danica was still in Denver, trying to reestablish her business, still posting inspirational quotes on social media between curated floral shots, still framing herself as the misunderstood one. I didn't follow her, didn't engage. That chapter was closed. Not because it didn't matter, but because I mattered more. The last time I saw my mom was unplanned. It was at the grocery store. She looked surprised to see me. We stood there in the frozen aisle, 2 women with 1,000 unspoken things between them. "You look well," she said. "I am," I replied. She hesitated. "I heard about the birthday party. People said it was beautiful." "It was," I said simply. She nodded. "Good." And that was it. No apology, no reconnection, just a sliver of acknowledgement. And maybe for now that was enough. Now when people ask me what happened with my family, I don't launch into the story. I don't need them to understand the whole thing. I just say we grew apart. I stopped shrinking to fit. Most people nod. Some don't get it, but the right ones do. Suri's doing great. She still wears glitter dresses to the grocery store and names her cupcakes like they're rare gems. She talks about kindness like it's a power. And maybe it is. Maybe that's the legacy I'm building now, not a trail of perfect parties or being the most dependable one, but showing her what it looks like to love yourself without guilt. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not waiting for closure that'll never come. I'm just living, fully, on purpose. And if that makes me the villain in someone else's version of events, so be it. I'd rather be misunderstood and free than accepted and resentful. So, if you're still here, still reading, let me leave you with this. Don't wait for the world to grant you permission to stop overgiving. Don't let guilt masquerade as love. And don't ever let someone rewrite your story just because you finally stepped off the stage. Now tell me, was I wrong for finally choosing myself, or was this the only ending it ever could have been? Let me know in the comments. And if you made it all the way here, thank you. I think we both needed this. Story 2. My 17-year-old daughter put in a lot of overtime to secure a full scholarship. It was purposefully taken from her by my parents and sister. They said it's better for the family. I didn't yell. This is what I did. The police showed up at their door 3 days later. You would think that when a disaster showed up at my door in a plain white envelope, I would know it. However, no. I assumed it was a parking permit, a dorm assignment, or some exciting news regarding the deactivation of a student ID. It's the sort of thing you let your child open because you're a cool kid and it's theirs. Parent who isn't overinvested. I didn't even crack it open. I said, "Mail came for you," and threw it on the counter while grinning at Ruby, my daughter's scholarship winner, who was wearing jeans from a thrift store. After glancing once, she fell silent. Thin envelope. Slim, nothing cheap. Elegant envelope. The type of form that says, "This is a boring form," or "Oops, you don't have insurance." Ruby remained silent. She grabbed it, went down the hallway, and vanished into her room. I resumed stirring whatever was for supper. Perhaps pasta. I can't recall because she said it after that. "Mom!" Her voice snapped in two, breaking like a stick. After shutting off the burner, I went down the hallway. The door stood open. Hunched over on the bed, she held the letter as if it might catch fire if she moved too quickly. He gave it to me. Didn't say anything. Simply gave it to me. Before it even registered, I read it twice. "We respect your choice to turn down the scholarship. The next qualified applicant has been given your award." I chuckled, but not in a joyful way. One of those breaths. When your brain short-circuits what kind of laughs come from your ribcage, I gave her a look. "You didn't turn anything down, did you?" Ruby gave a head shake. I was afraid she might injure her own palms because of how tightly she was clenching her hands. She already had tears in her eyes. "No," she muttered. "Why would I do that?" She didn't have to persuade me. When the acceptance came in, Ruby had started crying. Despite being 200 miles away, she had made brownies for the admissions team. She had declined the scholarship and framed her email of acceptance. Burning a winning lottery ticket would be analogous to that. I picked up my phone and dialed the number on the financial aid office letter. I wasn't courteous at all. An acoustic violin of some sort was playing in the background. Assist Ruby was trembling and no longer crying as she sat beside me. Simply stunned. Finally, a woman responded. "It's Megan. How may I be of assistance?" I jumped right in. "We recently received a letter informing us that my daughter had turned down her scholarship. It's a mistake. She failed. Could you give me her student ID?" I offered it. She typed. I pictured the slow clack of treachery. Last week, her registered email address sent us a formal withdrawal email. According to Megan, it has already been processed. The scholarship was given to someone else. My throat became parched. I apologized. The address we have on file is where it originated. The request was time-stamped at 7:47 p.m. on Monday of last week. Ruby tilted her head as if she had just been slapped as she gazed at me. "You'll have to read that address back to me," I said. Megan did. Ruby's face turned pale. She said, "That's my email." However, I sent nothing. "I will require a duplicate of that email," I told Megan. "Could you please send it to me? The message can be forwarded to the original address." "Yes, of course," she said. "Excellent. They were forwarding a phony email to the exact account from which it originated, preventing the legitimate owner from seeing it. The kicker was then added by her. Students occasionally have second thoughts and change their minds. Especially now that it has been reassigned, we cannot simply reverse it. She also didn't retreat. Megan remained unflinching. I didn't hear it if she did. She simply came across as professional and vivacious. You are welcome to submit a formal complaint if you think there was a mistake. However, it is rarely reversible once reassigned. Who received it? I inquired. Who was the next contender? I apologize, but we are unable to reveal that. They couldn't, of course. We ended the call. Ruby didn't cry. Not immediately. She simply gazed at the wall as if it were the first to blink. Then she murmured, "I nearly thought it was true. Believed it to be true. But obviously not. The offer seemed too good to be true. Not because she was mistaken, but because she had stated it as though she had known all along. It made me feel something. It was as though a piece of her had been waiting for the world to take it away." I wrapped her in my arm. "We'll manage," I said. My voice trembled even as I spoke because I had no idea how we had survived for years on part-time jobs and faith. It was no bonus to receive this scholarship. There was no other plan, and it had been stolen somewhere, assuming the identity of my daughter. We wouldn't know anything more until the forwarded email arrived. I already had a gut feeling, but I didn't want to believe it. However, something was horribly purposefully wrong, and someone was responsible. The timestamp, the email, and the fact that it had originated from her own account. I'm not sure what I anticipated feeling, waiting for a phony email to arrive while standing in the living room. Most likely not murderous. My daughter's scholarship had been stolen, but that wasn't all. They did it that way. Just the coldness of posing as her, typing a withdrawal message as if it didn't exist. After that, she hit send and watched as her future fell apart like a deck of cards. Additionally, they used her own identity, email, and account to do it. The screen grab was still en route. Every 3 minutes, Ruby checked her inbox. I was chewing on a cuticle that I was unaware was bleeding, and I was pacing like an animal in a cage. We didn't say much together. How could we respond? We were still hoping it was a strange glitch rather than a mix-up. Something simple, fixable, and technical. However, I had a sneaking suspicion that the pieces were already coming together and not creating a glitch. She was being shaped by them. Vivian, I was not yet ready to go there. I chose to do what mothers do when they lose control instead. I tried to explain it to myself after rewinding the tape. My sister and I grew up 2 years apart, which is close enough to be compared at every stage of life. The one with the gold was Vivian. Obviously not. Our parents weren't cartoon villains or anything, but there was always a second set of rules that followed her around. I was lazy if I neglected to take out the trash. If she forgot, someone must have distracted her. If she cried, she was sensitive and needed comforting. If I cried, I was dramatic. And if we fought, well, don't use your little sister as an excuse. She's younger. You should know better. I learned early that protesting made things worse, so I stopped. Let her have the last cookie. The benefit of the doubt, the spotlight. All right, whatever. I built my life outside the favoritism radius. We both grew up, had daughters at almost the same time, and for a while I let myself believe things were different. Ruby and Chloe were close, like genuinely close. Same school, same after-school programs, same goofy photos in matching pajamas. We raised them side by side, lived in the same town, shared babysitting recipes, holiday tables. Our parents doted on them both. Or almost both. It was subtle, like everything else. Ruby got praised for her kindness. Chloe got praised for her spark. Ruby was responsible. Chloe was a natural leader. Ruby did the dishes after family dinner. Chloe made everyone laugh and forgot the dishes, and somehow that was just as valuable. And when Chloe messed up when she got caught cheating on a vocab quiz or snapped at a teacher, it was stress, pressure, teenage hormones. When Ruby cried after a bad day, sensitive. She needs to toughen up. So I brushed it off. They were kids, and the girls loved each other. Chloe came over for sleepovers. Ruby helped her with homework. They swapped books and inside jokes and shared Spotify playlists like a pair of nerdy twins. Ruby even helped Chloe with her scholarship essays because, both girls applied for the same full ride program. It was a long shot. National, competitive. We all knew there were tens of thousands of applicants and maybe 50 spots, but they went for it together side by side, cheering each other on. When the acceptance came through for Ruby, I screamed, then I cried. Then I panicked a little because I realized she might actually be leaving and I wasn't ready. But Ruby didn't do any of that. She just sat there quietly and said, "But what about Chloe?" I told her the truth. "Chloe will be okay. This is your moment." A few days later, Chloe got her reply. On a waiting list. First in line is you, if someone leaves. Which is, let's face it, academic jargon. Until someone dies, don't get too excited. Ruby was on the verge of not wanting to celebrate. It simply seems cruel, as if I'm boasting. "You deserve this," I told her. "Chloe is also pleased with you." And she appeared to be. She attended the low-key graduation celebration at our house. Not very fancy. "I'm happy for you," she said, giving Ruby a hug. "We made it, at least one of us. I assumed we would all move on, and that was the end of it." I had no idea that night would be the beginning of the end. I was brought back to the present by the ping of an incoming email. Ruby pulled it open. Message forwarded. Scholarship. She sent a withdrawal from her account. Time stamped at 7:48 p.m. on Monday. Both of us gazed at the figure. She blinked. The party took place on that particular night. We checked the calendar. We glanced at the screen's clock. We didn't talk. Ruby's gaze began. Her hands were trembling once more. She whispered that it was her. Chloe was the one. My stomach sank with my heart. "What are you saying?" Ruby gave me a look as if she were witnessing the realization for the first time. She requested to use my phone. She said she had to call her boyfriend because hers was dead. Hold on. For her, I unlocked it. Longer silence. For 10 minutes, she was absent. I held my breath. She didn't either. In the silence of that insight, we sat there observing the floor as if it might provide an answer. That night, I recalled seeing them laugh together. Ruby helped Chloe choose a dress, did her makeup, and offered to take pictures on the fancy phone so Chloe would have better lighting, as I recall. She borrowed Ruby's clothes. Allow her to take advantage of her trust and confidence, as well as her phone. She didn't give her a backstab. The knife was borrowed by her. After betrayal, there's a certain silence. The loaded kind, not the serene kind. Because they don't want to exacerbate it, even your thoughts are whispering. The night Ruby recalled that was our home. Curled up on the couch, she stared straight ahead as if her entire life were being replayed through static. With the email in my hand, I sat across from her. She allegedly sent it from her phone while her cousin was using it to make a call to her boyfriend. The gut punch, the tone, and the timestamp all lined up. The fact that Ruby never wrote it was the only thing that didn't. The silence was finally broken by her. "It's impossible for us to prove." And her voice broke as if it had given up. It was sent from my phone by her. "There's no possibility." Perhaps it was the deadness in her voice or the way her shoulders had fallen into themselves when I looked at her. But something inside of me exploded. Then we figured something out. I kept my plans to see my sister Vivian a secret from Ruby. She didn't have to be aware, not just yet. As if it were any other Tuesday, I simply said that I had errands to run and took the car keys. As if I wasn't going to drive across town to confront my sister and ask her if she would contribute to the ruin of my daughter's future. The whole drive. I practiced my response. "Come on. Factual. No charges. I would inquire. I would assume the best about her." Then, as if nothing had happened, she smiled and opened the door. And all of my self-control collapsed into the driveway. "Hey," she said, "what is going on?" I raised my phone. "This." She moved to make room for me. I didn't sit. Simply stood like a debt collector in her kitchen. Ruby sent this from her email at 7:48 p.m., the evening of her graduation celebration. That's the same time Chloe borrowed her phone. Vivian glanced at the screen, smiled. "You're sure it wasn't just Ruby?" I gazed at her. That's when I realized she wasn't confused. She was stalling. She helped your daughter with her essays, let her borrow her clothes, let her borrow her phone, and now her scholarships. Gone. Vivian shrugged. She shrugged. When your daughter was helping mine, she wasn't really helping, was she? She knew they were competing before Chloe did. I blinked. "Excuse me," she kept saying how guilty she felt. Chloe didn't get it. In the event that she had done nothing wrong, why would she feel bad? I had the impression that I was looking at her through a piece of glass. The floor didn't make sense, as if I were dreaming. Could collapse at any moment. "What do you say?" She rested her head on the counter. "Nothing. Just letting you know. Whoever says the final word wins." That was the end of it. I realized then that she had known all along. Shaking, I drove home. Not out of anger, not out of sorrow, not out of insight. She hadn't simply allowed it to occur. She had been helpful. Furthermore, Vivian was astute enough to cover for Chloe if she was able to send that email without being discovered. However, not even Vivian had anticipated anything. We remember everything because I'm a mother. I was washing my hands when Gamma struck me. Our security camera in the backyard. Audio is activated by motion. At the party, Chloe had gone outside. Said that she needed a place to call her boyfriend that was quiet. She had only gone out to the patio long enough to take Ruby's phone and do what she needed to do. When I opened the app, I saw Chloe leaving through the back door while holding a phone. How? 7:46 p.m. It was impossible to tell for sure that it was Ruby's phone. You could tell one thing, even though it wasn't on camera. Chloe didn't own it. A different model, incorrect case, not the typical one she carried. After a minute of staring at the screen, she tapped repeatedly before making a call. 7:50 p.m. He laughed and paced. "Yes, I will inform you," he said, and went back inside. Ruby's phone record attested to it. A few seconds after sending the email, Chloe made a single outgoing call to her boyfriend. She had called him one to cover the other after sending it. It was sufficient to load one, but it wasn't a smoking gun. I showed Ruby everything. The call log, the timestamp, and the video. With her hands in her lap, she sat motionless. "It won't make a difference." "I said," she said. "They'll simply claim that I changed my mind and am now blaming her, or that I allowed her to send it." He was correct. That's what they would say, so I remained silent. I looked at the table. "Get my laptop open. What are you doing? I'm complaining to the university about this," she asked after giving me a long look. "I'm reporting it to the police. Fraud, impersonation, and sabotage of education." "You can call it whatever you want." Theft was committed. No wallet was taken by them. Her future was stolen by them. I posted the video. Screenshots are attached. The timeline was submitted. I then grabbed the phone and dialed our local police department's non-emergency number. "I want to report digital fraud and impersonation." "Who is the victim?" I asked my daughter. "She lost a scholarship and she's only 17. They were after her." On that night, I didn't cry. Ruby went to bed early. I kissed her forehead, told her it wasn't over, and tucked her in like she was 5 again. After that, I had a cup of coffee while sitting in the kitchen. I watched the university portal's status bar spin in place without drinking. I muttered, "We've done everything we could. It's up to them now, but the reality..." I didn't wait. I was preparing. You would think that after witnessing my daughter's scholarship being gradually stolen by people we trusted, I would be accustomed to betrayal and have some emotional scar tissue. I could no longer be truly surprised by anything. However, that is the amusing aspect of damage. The same spot is never broken twice. The worst crack was still on the horizon. I was unaware of it at first. I believed the harm was already done. My phone rang 3 days after I submitted the reports. No greeting, no preamble, just Vivian. "You dispatched the police to my residence. She spoke steadily and sharply. Not shaken, not hurt, just restrained anger. The kind people save for property damage or parking tickets. Not fraud. You think that's how you handle something like this? By involving strangers. I opened my mouth, closed it again. There was no point reminding her that I had come to her first. She wasn't interested in facts. She wanted outrage. Chloe's been crying. He scared Mom. She thought someone had died. And you didn't even have the decency to warn us. You just made us a public spectacle. I leaned back against the kitchen counter and looked at the tile. One of the corners was cracked, just like this conversation. I have to go, I said. I hung up before she could answer, and then I stood there for another full minute holding my phone like it might vibrate back into meaning. Mom and Dad were there, I whispered. Ruby was in the next room refreshing her inbox. The university still hadn't replied. She looked up. What? Nothing, I lied. Get your shoes. We're going to see Grandma and Grandpa. She blinked. Yo-yo. Ruby thought that if we were calm, they would listen, so we brought pancakes because we were the kind of people who brought pancakes to a conference station. Since I thought that Lee was at least somewhat deluded, I thought that our only problem would be persuading them that they would understand if we simply guided them through it gently. They would support us. They'd be surprised. We didn't know, they would say while holding Ruby. We sincerely apologize. God, we were foolish. They welcomed us as if it were just another morning. Coffee, hugs. Ruby's new shoes drew my mother's attention. My father inquired if we would like orange juice. The kitchen table was where we sat. I took the folder out. Before we continue, please take a look at this. They did it too calmly and in silence. The timestamp comes after the email. Next came the security footage showing Chloe using Ruby's phone outside. The call log, each page in sequence. Ruby sat next to me, white knuckles and folded hands. She appeared to be making an effort to quiet her breathing. My mother didn't look at me when she finally said something. She gave Ruby a look. She's only a kid. I realized then that something was amiss. She's 17, I said. In addition, she was dishonest. My dad took the papers and sat down. She was wrong. Perhaps a bad choice, but she's a decent child. I blinked. Do you believe she did it? They exchanged glances before turning back to face me. We hoped you would attend. According to my mother, we have discussed it. Every one of us. The words shattered like glass. Every one of us. Vivian. I was immobile after you told her what you had discovered. I clenched my jaw so tightly that it clicked. You were aware we took no action. Quickly, my father said. We simply reached a consensus. What have you agreed to? My mom didn't recoil. Chloe was more in need of it. Ruby got to her feet. She had trembling hands. Right now. She took it from me with your help. Nothing was taken. For the first time, my mother's voice rose as she snapped. It was kept within the family. I stood up at that point. The family didn't keep it. It was taken. She was heartbroken. According to my father, we kept quiet because we knew you would take it badly. My mother added, she's not as strong as Ruby. We assumed Ruby would comprehend. Ruby let out a tiny sound that sounded like unjolly laughter. You simply allowed her to lie? This wasn't supposed to get ugly. Involve the police, my father advised. What were your expectations? I believed I had promised to find out who had deceived us. According to my mother, you were already aware. I gave her a look, looked closely, and like a switch, something inside of me turned off. We didn't finish the pancakes before we left. I blocked their numbers that evening, every one of them. No texts, no speeches. Farewell. I simply pressed the button and saw the screen clear. Ruby was silent for hours. Then she clicked on the family group chat and scrolled to my dad's final message. Family loyalty is the subject of some memes. She uploaded 4 files. Screenshot of the withdrawal email, screenshot of the call log, a still frame from the security video, and a short message. Chloe sent the email from my phone. Vivian helped. Her grandparents knew this is what happened. You can believe it or not, but this is what happened. She didn't wait for a response. We both knew we wouldn't get one. The university had yet to reply. Ruby was summoned twice more to provide additional clarification. 5 days remained before term began. We had nothing. No funding, no scholarship, and no contingency plan. These days, it's not even about the money. One night, Ruby said, they decided that I didn't deserve it after taking a look at me. She wasn't incorrect, so I wasn't sure how to react. I received a message 2 days before orientation. A cousin I hadn't seen since a funeral was quiet and private. What Ruby posted caught my attention. I sent it on to someone. I hope that's all right. It was more than satisfactory. It was our only possession. We received the call the following afternoon. From the Hope Bridge Foundation, I'm calling. We went over Ruby's story again. We would like to cover all of her tuition costs beginning right now. I refrained from crying. Not until I ended the call. Not until I noticed Ruby curled up with her arms wrapped around her knees on the couch. "You're in," I muttered. She gave me a look as if I had spoken a foreign language. We succeeded. "No, you did," I said. She stood by the door and zipped her bag the following morning. "I truly believed they had broken me," she said. I gave her a look. Weary. "Steady? Courageous? Then take a look at yourself." The inquiry didn't take long. Chloe was officially charged in a matter of weeks. Misuse of computers, fraud involving identity, academic dishonesty. She was expelled, and the scholarship was completely revoked by the university, formally awaiting the result before declaring it final. She was prohibited from receiving any more scholarships. No parent wants to see her name on a list. Then the unexpected part arrived. When questioned, Chloe broke down. She informed them that her mother had come up with the idea. The mastermind is Vivian, the lady who once declared that she would stop at nothing to help her daughter. She seemed to mean it. Vivian was found guilty and sentenced to a year of probation community service and a hefty fine. Of course, she cried in court, discussed reputations. Chloe, she put reputations before the truth. Every Saturday, they gave her the task of cleaning the bus terminal in the downtown area. I saw her once with Ruby. She didn't raise her head. We simply strolled by. Ruby ultimately received a better scholarship, but her original one was never restored. She's not small or in hiding now that she's on campus. She joined the debate team tutors twice a week and has already received an invitation to a summer research program. Sometimes, like a match just starting to burn, I see the flicker of something returning when I glance at her across the kitchen table. Self-assurance, joy, strength. She still avoids discussing her aunt or grandparents. I also don't advocate for complete lack of contact. There was no last message from me. They are all blocked. Silence can sometimes speak louder than words. They believed they could change the course of her life. They simply wrote their own conclusion, it turns out. Tell me, please, did I go far enough or too far? Hit subscribe and leave a comment below. Story 3. My 18-year-old daughter was the top student in her class when she graduated. My parents volunteered to host their granddaughter's graduation celebration. It was for my niece who had just completed 8th grade when we got there. For our only granddaughter, the cake read. I didn't shout. This is what I did. They began yelling when they received a letter 3 days later. The last time I trusted my parents with anything important, let me tell you about it. In fact, don't do that. I'll tell you about the last time I had any faith in them. Because this was no mere slight to the family. It had nothing to do with calling my daughter by the dog's name for the 10th time in a row, mispronouncing a name, or forgetting a birthday. It was next level, no. On a folding table alongside lies and shrimp skewers, this was betrayal baked into buttercream. It began quite innocently. On a Tuesday afternoon, I received a call from my mother. Her tone is light and informal, as if she wants me to find it endearing, even though she's about to say something that will ruin my day. She mentioned that we were considering hosting a graduation celebration for our granddaughter. I almost dropped a bag of rice while packing groceries into the trunk. "Oh yes," she said. "Something modest. Only family. We would be delighted to host." That was it. "Thank you," I said. He sounded earnest. It's so genuine that it makes your shoulders drop a bit. The kind that leads you to believe things that are contrary to your better judgment, that perhaps things will be different this time. I didn't even consider who she was referring to. Mia, my daughter, was the valedictorian of her high school class. Many thanks. Following 4 years of restless nights group projects involving inaction on the part of children and persevering through situations that no child should ever have to face, she succeeded. And at last, perhaps my parents had the same opinion of her as I did. That evening, I told him about it. Her eyes glowed. "Grandfather and grandfather." "Yes," she blinked. "Really?" I gave a nod. She remained silent, but I could sense that tiny glimmer of finally, after years of being present, helpful, and decent. Someone had observed. I would advise us both not to get our hopes up if I could go back in time. It was hot on the day of the celebration. Not hot as summer. Sticky, behind the knees. Warm? Marcus, my husband, was unable to locate the quality shoes. Mia was constantly switching up her earring. Even before we got into the car, I was perspiring. We all became quieter as we approached my parents' neighborhood. Recall that I told them that this was a good thing. Let's simply say thank you, with a smile. I was a fool when I said that. I almost drove by the house as we turned the corner onto their street. It didn't appear to be a party at first. It appeared to be a modest wedding. In the yard is a white canopy tent. Gold tablecloths, streamers, and dozens of folding chairs. Even those tiny, customized signs were embedded in the grass. My throat constricted. Marcus remarked, "They really went all out low." Mia bent over. "Whoa." After parking, we exited. We were surrounded by people as soon as we set foot on the lawn. Air kisses and hugs. Lemonade cups made of plastic were thrust into our hands. I hadn't seen them since I was a kid. Friends and family, relatives, my uncles, former spouse. How did she receive the invitation? I then noticed the girl in the forefront, done the curls, across her chest sash. The glittery dress is almost glowing. And I still haven't seen it, I promise. I simply assumed she was happy for me. I gave her a smile. I then noticed the cake. 3 cries. Gold piping, pastel pink frosting, a small edible graduation cap on top, and meticulous cursive writing across the front. To our only granddaughter, congratulations, 2025 class. I read it again and froze, but I only blinked. That isn't possible. Mia and Kaylee are the 2 granddaughters. Who? Then I noticed the framed picture next to the cake, the banner, the colors, and the middle school logo. As if she had just won a pageant, Kaylee is holding a rolled-up certificate while sporting a tiara and a sparkling white dress. I was suddenly struck by it. For Mia, this was not a party. It wasn't. Mia behind me said nothing. Not panicking, not frozen, just motionless. I turned to face Marcus. He gave me another look. Nobody said anything. Like ghosts, we entered the party. Nobody took notice. Not just yet. People grinned and remarked, "You must be very proud." And what a beautiful day. A few guests gave Mia confused looks when they realized she wasn't wearing the sash. A few gave me those quiet, polite smiles people use when they're not sure if they've made a mistake or you have. After that, guests handed over cards and wrapped boxes at the gift table one by one. A personalized tumbler, handmade signs, and envelopes were all present. We brought nothing. Why would we? We thought this was for Mia. A woman I barely knew gave me a strange look. Another whispered something in, glanced at Mia. One cousin actually tilted her head and mouthed, "Where's the gift I wanted to sink into the lawn?" Then Heather stood up, a glass of champagne in hand. "Let's all take a moment to celebrate our girl." He's worked so hard we couldn't be more proud. Middle school is a huge milestone, and she's handled it with grace, beauty, and intelligence. Cheers, laughter, applause. You just stood there, not crying, not moving, just watching. I waited until the toast ended, until people sat down, until the crowd thinned around the cake table. Then I found my mother near the cooler, scooping ice. "The cake says only granddaughter," I said. She smiled, distracted. "Oh, probably a mistake at the bakery." I didn't move. He shrugged. "Besides, Mia's older. She's not a child anymore. This was more of a milestone." I stared at her. He went back to the cups. Then my dad walked up holding a paper plate. "Wait, did Mia graduate too?" I remained silent. He blinked. From what I blinked back? "High school." He laughed. "Oh, right, that's right." I turned to face my mom. She remained silent. She simply turned back to the buffet table with a smile. We chuckled. Nobody intervened. Nobody trailed behind. Nobody even took notice, which in some way made it worse. Mia settled herself in the rear seat and gazed out the window. I got the car started. "We're not going to do this again," I said as we pulled out of the driveway and Marcus sat quietly. What did we do next? According to her, they received a letter 3 days later, and this time they were the ones who couldn't speak. When I was younger, I noticed some things, but talked myself out of them, and other things I didn't notice at all. You learn how to gaslight yourself before anyone else has the opportunity when you grow up in a family like mine. I didn't realize this wasn't a simple oversight until I looked back at the cake. This was not a typo in the bakery. They have been making jokes behind our backs for years, and this was the punchline. We were the joke. People have always said that I'm easy. The scandalous way, no. In the way of a manageable child. When I went to bed, I didn't cry. I put my own lunchbox in order. "Thank you," I said. My parents treated me like furniture because I was too frequently and wanted to be small. They didn't have to maintain, but they enjoyed having around. The thinker was my older brother. The little sparkle was Heather, my younger sister. Their middle child was me. The conversation is in the middle of the road, if I was fortunate. As I sat there, seemingly having missed none of my own life's events, I was unaware that it was strange that my mother would share stories at dinner about my siblings' victories in spelling bees or school plays. They didn't despise me. That is not the worst of it. They failed to see me. And you're capable of surviving that. However, you don't notice the bruise until later. My grandmother used to own the house where they currently reside and where the cake was. She left it to my mother, brother, and me when she passed away. I was 4 years old. Heather had not yet been born. I chuckled when my mother first mentioned that my name was on the deed. "I take it you're kidding?" He dismissed it with a wave. "In a technical sense, you are a co-owner. Ignore that. There is no such thing." "Correct. Only a legitimate portion of a home they've occupied for many years." It was foolish of me. However, I always did what I always did. I smoothed it over since I was taught to do so. I thought they would unlock something soft when I had Mia. I assumed my mother would lean in and remark, "You used to be like this." Or that while holding her, my dad would cry. Nor did they. She was cute, they said. They had a bib with them. They then inquired about the remaining hours of my maternity leave. That ought to have been the clue. But when it's your child, you don't want to witness it. Do you want to think they'll change their minds? They didn't. Your grandparents weren't devoted to you. There were people who forgot her grade and sent her birthday cards with $20 in them. No parties. There are no picture frames on the mantle. Only the odd, polite word. As they browse through their phones, "Tell us how school is going, my love." It wasn't cruel. It didn't matter. And cruelty can hurt more than anything else at times. At least you are noticed by cruelty. 4 years later, when Heather gave birth to Kaylee, there were hand-knitted sweaters, balloons, and a silver rattle with her initials engraved on it. Who is that for? My dad became proficient with a photo printer. My mother became a member of a Facebook group for trendy contemporary nannies. Suddenly, they had time. All of a sudden, they had opinions. All of a sudden, they identified themselves. Grandparents. For me, it's capital G. They were merely senior citizens who sat at the same table as us twice a month. We attended all of the dinners. We grinned. We brought food. We heard lengthy updates about Kaylee's tooth fairy visits and piano recitals. Mia even praised her artwork, which typically consisted of a triangle that claimed to be a dolphin and a few purple crayon streaks. Mia was trying, but I believe she was aware of what was going on. She was really, truly. She had volunteered to help set the table and clean up. Grandpa's terrible jokes make you laugh. She demonstrated how to save a contact on their phone, send an email, and operate the TV remote. I observed her typing softly as if she were hoping to receive something for her good behavior. Not cash, not presents, simply love. Her other grandparents. Europe is where my in-laws reside. He may only get to see them once a year at most. For her, that is. Sunday dinners weren't the only thing at stake. The issue was whether or not to have grandparents. She desired what other children possessed. She received strange mementos from Florida and cheek pinches from people who told her embarrassing baby stories. Being a good granddaughter was her goal. She was, too. However, it was unsuccessful. Not at all. She was liked by them. They valued her as much as you value a neighbor who brings in your trash cans. Nice, helpful, ignorant, senior year. She put in a lot of work, top of her class, debate prevails, volunteer hours. He completed everything, and I saw that in her. This growing hope that maybe the success would tip the scales. She never said it out loud. He didn't need to. She casually mentioned things like, "I think Grandpa likes history too, right? I got full marks on that project." Or, "I wonder if Grandma saw the photo you posted." She wasn't asking for a parade, just a nod, a sign that she mattered to them beyond showing up and being useful. I told them about her graduation weeks in advance. Sent them the details twice. They didn't RSVP. 3 days before the ceremony, I got a text from my mom. "Sorry, not feeling 100%. Might sit this one out." Sit this one out like it was a neighborhood barbecue, like it wasn't the culmination of 18 years of work. Mia didn't say anything when I told her. She just tied her shoes and asked if her speech sounded okay. That was the worst part, not the silence, but the normalcy. So when my parents called and said they wanted to throw a graduation party for our granddaughter, I didn't hesitate. I didn't overthink it. I didn't ask. Of course, I thought they meant Mia. Who else could they mean? They said our granddaughter. And for once in my life, I let myself believe they meant us. I told Mia. She lit up. He was quiet, that kind of smile. But I saw it. That small flicker of, maybe they're trying. She didn't ask questions. She just nodded and said, okay. He picked out a dress. She even volunteered to speak briefly with one of her favorite teachers, in that hopeful way that only teenagers have when they still believe that things can be different. She was anxious, excited, and afraid. To be honest, I did too. We were mistaken. I never imagined that I would be the type to write such a letter. Not a Christmas card with well wishes scrawled in phony gold ink, not a handwritten note. I am referring to a letter. One that when opened causes people to pause their breathing for a moment. You react angrily when you don't have anything to say. It wasn't even written by me. Marcus did. As if it were nothing, he drafted it. Be calm, courteous, deadly. A cut from a surgeon. I wasn't doing this for myself, so I signed it without blinking. My daughter was the reason I was doing it. It was not a sense of victory. Not initially. It's just odd. Keep quiet. It's almost clinical. 2 copies were printed. One to drop off, one for our records. I didn't mail it. I hand-delivered it folded once and placed it in a simple white envelope. No address for return, not a word, only the words. My 1/3 stake in the property at Clean Little is non-negotiable, and I plan to sell it. Theoretically, they could buy me out, borrow money, scrape together their pension checks, and do whatever it is that people do when confronted with the fallout from a power imbalance that has existed for decades. I knew they wouldn't, though. I was aware that wasn't the purpose. The idea was that they could no longer claim me as their own. It was Heather who called first. I wanted to know how it would begin, so I picked up. She held it open for Kelly to see. "That was the biggest crime of the year," she said. I didn't respond. Mom Laura screamed, similar to full volume. She almost spilled her tea. Do I have to say sorry to the tea? Heather didn't chuckle. She was crying. At first, I thought someone had died. "Was it read aloud by her?" I inquired. "Indeed. You're trying to sell the house," she said. "Our home, I should have said a third of the house." She was trembling. She needs to drink more water. Heather sounded like she was trying to decide whether to scream or hang up. "You're ruining her," she finally said. "No," I said. "That's what she did to herself. I'm just formally announcing it." My mother called 3 hours later. No message on the caller ID, just perseverance. The third ring was heard by me. "I'll act like I didn't read that letter correctly." Calmly, she said. "You will also tell me that it was an error." I allowed the silence to linger. "It wasn't," I added. He inhaled as if the letter were a single item. However, in some ways, this confirmation was worse. "Will you actually sell your portion of the house?" "Indeed, our house." "No," I replied. "My portion of my grandmother's house. You don't even call that place home. You also don't pay taxes on it by yourself." My mother remained silent for a while. Next. "This is retaliatory." "No," I replied. "It's past time. That foolish party is the reason you are doing this. I'm taking this action because a house full of framed pictures of someone else's child shouldn't be linked to my daughter's future." Her laughter was bitter and abrasive. "It's about me now, I see. I think about Mia in everything I do. You will leave us without a place to live." "No, I can be bought out. You are able to obtain a mortgage, sell your vehicle, give Heather a call. You have choices." That didn't get a response. "You want to be careful," she said. "You do not wish to destroy all relationships." I grinned. "I'm pretty sure you handled that with a banner and a cake." I hung up after that. Marcus discovered me sitting at the kitchen table that night, gazing at a scratch in the wood that I had never seen before. He handed me tea without asking any questions. "Do you feel bad about it?" Finally, he asked. "No," I replied. "I don't even though I feel like I should." He gave a nod. For a while, we sat in that position. "I've always made excuses for them," I added. "I am aware. I know even after the party. I believe I assumed they would eventually change their minds." He peered at me through his mug's rim. "You no longer think that I gave a headshake." They were aware that she entered. They celebrated someone else's child's middle school diploma as though it were a PhD, even though they knew we were rushing to find a way to pay for it. Marcus remained silent. He didn't have to. The days that followed were calm. That feels more like a loaded gun than peace in that sense. I stopped taking their calls, ceased doing errands. Prescription filling is over. Stop listening to their voicemail. Not anymore. Can you assist me with my login stops texting me as well? She made no dramatic remarks. She simply chose not to participate. Tech support is no longer available. No more videos of Kaylee's birthday. No more staying up late. Could you please take a quick look at this email? Requests. She simply took a silent step back. I once inquired about her feelings. "I deleted a virus I didn't know was running," she said. Heather then made another attempt 4 days later. "You have no idea what you have done to your mother." "I said," she said. "She is moving like a ghost through the house." That's what I assumed she was already doing. She reads the letter over and over again as if it were a death notice. Perhaps it's for the version of herself who believed she would always get away with it. She isn't eating, nor is she paying attention. Heather let out a sigh. "There is still time to correct this." "Yes, it is. Simply give her a call." "No. Laura, just speak to her." "Yes, I did." I hung up again after sending a letter. I was drying dishes that evening when Mia entered the kitchen. She crossed her arms and leaned against the counter. "Have you ever felt like the villain?" she inquired. I stopped. Yes, constantly. Why? She gave a small smile. I wanted to make sure I wasn't alone. Back then I smiled, she said. Will they ever get it in your opinion? But that's not the point. I said, what is it? We owe them no comprehension, just limits. After a single nod, we parted ways. The cake, in my opinion, was the low point. You're aware of it. Congratulations to our only granddaughter who was cruelly piped in swirly pink frosting. I was surprised that the bakery didn't submit a warning report, but it turns out that I was mistaken. Apparently, being excluded from your own daughter's graduation celebration isn't the worst thing in the world. Like learning that the same people who brought you up attempted to ruin her future. 2 weeks after the letter, it began. Marcus assisted me in writing the letter, the one that spoke in lawyerly terms. My portion of the house is being sold. Just the facts, no shouting, no threats. Mia made that face when she arrived at dance class 2 weeks later. The one who, if you don't know her, appears normal. Straight shoulders and a composed voice. However, I am more knowledgeable. He explained what had transpired. They were anticipating my arrival. On the sidewalk, she said, I blinked. Your parents? She gave a nod. They waved her over and pretended to be out for a stroll when they appeared outside her dance studio like two amiable ghosts. It had been 18 years since they had expressed much interest in her hobbies. Yes, they are currently working with her class schedule. He claimed that at first the two were pleasant, akin to stage actors performing dinner theater. The script then appeared. Are you really going to allow your mother to harm us in this way? We're homeless because of her. Speak to her, sweetie. She only pays attention to you. I inquired about her reaction. Mia gave a shrug. No, I told them. No yelling, no drama. Simply put, no. My mother looked her in the eye at that point and told her, okay, but decisions have consequences. Mia walked away after turning. I didn't. After she was gone, I stayed in the kitchen for a while, gazing out the window as if the trees could give me advice on how to avoid screaming into the wind. Because guilt trips are exactly what I expected. Although I anticipated manipulation, bringing Mia into it and ambushing her close to a dance class forced her to tell me to leave. That was novel. That was intentional. Furthermore, I hadn't yet witnessed the worst of it. 2 more weeks went by. At last, we were able to breathe again and discussed meal plans and furniture for the dorm. The positive kind of stress. Then came the letter. Large envelope. Logo of the university. It looked to Mia like her housing packet. I was washing a bowl at the kitchen counter when she opened it. Her breath caught and I heard it. After that, she gave it to me. It wasn't a house. The admissions office had sent out the notice. They were reviewing her enrollment. Allegations of omissions, inconsistencies, and undisclosed legal entanglements were made in an anonymous report. I felt cold because of how sterile the wording was. Like reading the autopsy report of a living thing. Near remained silent. After reading the letter once or twice, Marcus turned to face me as if someone had just lit a match and kicked open the front door. I took a firm seat. I needed a minute to take in what I was seeing. I understood it not because I didn't understand it. It wasn't petty. Family politics weren't involved here. It was an assault. Not on me, either. On her. I grabbed my keys and coat, got into the car, and drove directly across town without telling Marcus. I didn't fear what I would say. What I wouldn't do scared me. As if he had been peeking through the blinds, my father opened the door. Behind him, my mother showed up. I'm not shocked, simply arrogant. I didn't greet them. Have you informed the Universal team about Mia? No confusion, no blinking. No. What are you discussing? Nothing but silence. You think you can do what you did and not face consequences? My mother asked. I entered. You attempted to ruin her life. She ought not to be present. According to my mother, she was not suited for school. She entered by herself. You brought up your drama. What were you anticipating? I thought you would be upset. I didn't think you would ruin a child's future in order to exact revenge. She's not a kid. She is involved in this. I gazed at her, and I felt something break inside of me. Not with tears, not with anger. Just a fresh start. Similar to bone being torn from bone. "It's not that you're bad grandparents," silently I said. "You people are dangerous." I turned around and left after that. I rang the doorbell before they saw me hit record. I uploaded 3 items to the family group chat that evening. Just a picture of the cake with no introduction or preamble. An audio clip of my mother stating that school wasn't for her, along with a screenshot of the university letter. After that, I made dinner and shut off my phone. The consequences were immediate. An hour later, the conversation was blazing like a Christmas tree. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years added their voices. "Hold on, what is this real too?" I received a private text from one aunt. "I didn't know. I'm very sorry." 3 individuals quietly departed from the group. After a while, Heather joined in. "This is being exaggerated beyond recognition." She got no response. Not even Kaylee. "You've read it all." Methodical, as if gathering proof for a purpose greater than retaliation. She said, "I don't think I ever want to see them again," as she came to the end and turned to face me. I gave a nod. As if she had just cleaned up someone else's mess, she returned to her room. She had, in a sense. My phone rang a couple of days later. My brother is who the party was the last time we had spoken. They gave me a call. "Oh," he said. I didn't answer. "You weren't getting assistance from them," claimed to be desperate, so I said nothing. He continued by saying, "I told them no. Actually, I'd like to sell my 3rd pair." He said simply, I felt something in my chest unclench for me. That night, this went too far. I sat on the back porch with myself. It felt forgiving because the sun was just low enough. She used a spoon to stir her tea. Months prior, she had bent unintentionally and had never been replaced. She then inquired about their apology. "Would you pardon them?" I considered it, gave it careful thought. "No," I replied, "not for this." She gave a nod. Excellent. Let's fast forward a year. The house sold for a clean, good price, but not very quickly. Everything Mia needed was covered by my 3rd, housing and tuition. The bills are unexpected. And after that, there was still money. More than I anticipated. Since then, we haven't communicated with my parents. No strange letters, no calls, no excuses. Slipped into the mailbox. Nothing. My brother hasn't, as far as I know. He took his 3rd, signed the papers, and then vanished. He made the quietest exit I've ever witnessed. The clothes are gone, but Heather is still orbiting. I've heard that they left a few months ago. At last, she stopped justifying their attempts to harm Mia. Claimed to need room. He understood. My parents purchased a home with their cut. That's what he can call it. Brief overview. Out of town. A bad street. Worse neighbors. No mortgage. They were ineligible. So they settled for rot and paid cash. Sirens and leaks at 2 a.m. They now own it. Each tile that has a crack in it. But they will never be able to claim credit for a single moment because she is steady, focused, and sharp in all the right ways. However you tell me. Did I go far enough or too far? Click subscribe and leave a comment.